Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. This podcast explores leadership traits under stress with a special guest each week. We use a simple and accurate OAD assessment to identify key personality traits or superpowers, as well as the shadow side, kryptonite traits that appear when we're under stress. As always, we'll have some pod banter, shameless plugging, and we'll even let our guests talk for a bit. Of course, no humble brags. Welcome to the show. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining our inaugural podcast called Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. How you doing, Will?
I'm well, John. How are you?
That's great. So in our podcast, we talk about leadership traits under pressure. And we like to explore people's strengths and their weaknesses. And then we're going to learn about some boo-boos that they make and see if we can't draw some lessons and then get out of here. Today on the show is my dear twin brother, Tom, all the way from Charlotte. Hi, Tom.
Hey, John.
And
hey, Will.
we absolutely lured him in here on our first episode because he's family and he had to. So what do you say, guys? Should we get started? All right. So as I said, today we're on our podcast, we talk about superpowers versus kryptonite. What are those superpowers? The easiest thing to think of is they are your strengths. They are your gifts. They are the things that you bring to the world. Then what is your kryptonite? The opposite, the shadow side, the dark side. Under pressure or stress, your best features can turn into your worst. And we're going to explore that today because leaders have to lead under pressure. Anyone can lead when there's no pressure. So how do you manage those things? And that's what we're going to talk about today with our special guest. Okay, and the way we get the superpowers is from the OAD survey. It's a 5-minute assessment that you take, and it comes out with some descriptions of your personality, and then we turn those into strengths and weaknesses or superpowers and kryptonite. And we'll show you what that looks like. All right, so this is my brother Tom reduced to a tiny table. Tom, how does it feel to be a chart?
It feels great, John. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, we did Will's chart last week, but let's just explain this quite simply. So there's 4 key, we call them constructs, that will define Tom. And what we see is that his most dominant is extroversion. He's a real people person. People who know him will know that. Second is his assertiveness. People who know him will know that as well. He does not have a lot of patience, meaning he has a sense of urgency. He likes to keep things moving. And then if something is important to him, in terms of details, he's going to follow up, and it's very important to him. So he put them together, and Tom is what's called a builder. And now we're going to convert those into superpowers and kryptonite. Everybody ready?
Oh, yeah. All right. So builder, influencer, Tom, I got to ask you about these superpowers here. These are, more on the generic side, but is there one of these that really, leaps out to you when you look at those?
Yeah, I think it's optimistic demeanor. I think there's a lot of ups and downs in life, and a lot of, I have a sales role as part of what I do, and not everyone comes through, but I always try to keep optimistic and probably, each no maybe is a step towards a yes, and tomorrow is going to be better than today, etc. So I think I've got a sort of a sunny disposition for the most part.
Well, I understand that for sure. I've been in sales and BD 24 years.
Yeah.
And if you're going to, do that for a living, you're going to get no a lot more than yes. And if you don't come into it with the glass half full every day, it's really hard to do what you do successfully. So I totally get that.
What's
that?
Yeah, it'll wear you down if you don't have you've got to keep everything rolling, keep everything moving forward. And I think positivity is a big piece of that.
It is. Kryptonite wise, one of those jump out at you?
Well, all of them.
You have no weaknesses, right?
That's what we're here to talk about, brother.
This first one about not always paying attention to details. That one jumps out at me quite often. I think we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but it's typically not the big one, but it's typically the small ones that I don't notice till it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. And when that's the case, and John and I have talked about this before in previous discussions, those are the things, those kryptonite issues like attention to detail, where you put systems or processes or software or notes or something in place to make sure that you hold yourself accountable and kind of, strengthen those weaknesses by putting things in place that help you find success.
Yeah, for sure. But then you got to read the directions and follow the system. And so sometimes if you put speed in there, put those two together, it's
So that's that low P, right? Low P runs in the family, apparently.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And our blooper reel will show that. Yeah, Tom, I definitely hear where you're coming from. The one that I have a very similar one. The one that bugs me the most is not always sufficiently analytical. Now, I haven't looked into the details of that, but it bugs me. And also the outward looking social acceptance that comes with having a high E that I also share is it can weigh on you. So yeah, but that's great, Tom. Thank you for opening up on that. As Will said, these are the generic ones, so we're going to get into the good stuff. Next slide. You all ready for that?
Okay, Tom, we're getting specific now. Let's talk about these notes that you've made, your reflections on your own superpowers.
Yeah, so I've been around the sun a few times. I think you guys have too. You can see the gray hair. I've done some reflection, and a number of years ago, I really started looking at this first one, like getting things started. And I used to think it was a negative. I used to think that I'm not a good finisher, and there's certainly some truth to that. But I started looking at it the other way as a real strength, which was I'm really good at getting things moving. And if you ask anybody who's ever launched a new product, built a new company, started a new marketing campaign, whatever that is, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And that first step is a doozy, right? So just getting people moving, getting everybody excited, and moving things forward. And of course, I think one of the reasons I'm good at that is I have a way of communicating that people kind of get excited, a compelling vision of the future, helping people see where we're going, why we're going there, and also what their role is. I think that's what holds listeners' attention, is that they go, oh, I like where we're going and I like what I get to do. So I'm excited about that. And I think people always want to hear the why. They want to understand, well, why are we doing what we're doing, right? And 2-year-olds ask why all the time. And 42-year-olds, they still want to know why. They find different ways to ask, right? But they want to know why as well. When you can do that and tell that in a story form, people really listen, right? I think they feel like they understand, things are clearly explained, and then I listen well, which helps them listen well.
Fantastic. Covered it all there. And those are the things when we recognize our strengths and play to them, superpowers, right, John?
Yeah, Tom held my attention the whole time. That's not easy. So.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
no, not at all.
Good. Well, and listen, Tom is.
Funny, I used to think.
Go ahead, Tom.
I used to think of myself as a bus builder rather than a bus driver, and I thought about that because if I was a bus driver, I would want to have a personal record getting around the route every day. I'd want to get a little bit faster every day, but of course, my supervisor would be furious because you're supposed to get at the stop, the third stop at 10:12, and getting there at 10:09 is not better, right? It's not 3 minutes better. It's not a race, and that would drive me crazy to have to do this exact same thing every day, right? So build the bus different every day. Drive the bus, it's the same every day, and I go crazy doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that. So thank you.
All right, Tom. So you were super reflective and dove in deep on the easy stuff, as Mr. Lane likes to say, John Lane, about the superpowers. Yeah. Now the hard stuff, kryptonite. I think we determined that you're nearly, but not completely flawless. Let's talk about these three things.
It's funny. One of the things I've learned is that under pressure, leaders get to tend to overcook. Right? That's the language we use at our company. Overcook, and when we overcook our strengths, that's when they can start to become weaknesses. And so, for me, getting things moving, really important, strong strength. But if I'm not careful, I don't think things through. Right? I just start running. Right? And if you combine that with another one of my kryptonite elements, which is speed, again, good at getting things moving. Bosses love that, but you combine speed and impulsivity, I can be going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction and not know. Right. And so that one bites me quite a bit. Another thing that bites me from time to time is that part of my job is to speak truth to power.
Mm.
Sometimes what power needs to hear, they don't want to hear. And I like to be liked. So sometimes I can be so smooth with what I deliver that they don't really get what I was saying. Right. One of my employees many years ago said, I could fire somebody and they didn't know they were fired until their paycheck stopped coming.
Yep.
Right.
That's
So that's because I want them to like me. I want them to, to appreciate me, even though I'm letting them go succeed somewhere else. And so sometimes that gets in the way of me being as direct and as straightforward as I'd like to be.
Yeah, Tom,
Yeah,
that's
that being a
that's your high E. Sorry, Will. That's the high E coming out. That's really the flip side, the dark side of a high E for extroversion. Sorry, Will.
no worries. The only thing I was going to ask is that, it's not necessarily pointed out here, but it can be a problem. You talked about being great at starting things,
Mhm.
and the speed with which you can move. How about finishing things? It's great to get a bunch of things started, but how do you do with making sure that everything gets finished?
So a couple of things. One is I have learned to be a strong finisher. I just don't like it. Right. So it's not my favorite thing. And I've been around the sun a few times and I'm one of the owners of the company, right? So I don't have to do things. What I can do is surround myself with people who can. So we've got a crackerjack team of people here who not only are really, really good at finishing, making the trains run on time, but they like it. They get
Good.
satisfaction out of it. So their strengths would be my weaknesses. And if I can give them enough clear direction and get out of the way, they can come along and make the trains run on time. So they can do what they do, so I can do what I do, and it actually works beautifully.
Yep. Perfect.
And I just have to point out that our unofficial motto is no humble brags. And Tom, you were borderline on that humble brag, but we're gonna let this go because you're our first guest. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So Tom, thank you for spending this time with us and being vulnerable. I guess I'll find out on the family call on Sunday if I shouldn't have told that story. But I really appreciate you being vulnerable and talking to us about it. And we'll say goodbye to you and really appreciate the time you spend with us.
Very good. And thank you for letting me
Bye,
go.
Tom.
Say it again,
Bye,
Tom.
guys.
Thank you for what?
Thank you for letting me go first.
I was born first,
Save it.
so you get to go first now.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, Tom. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Wow, Will, twin brother. What do you think?
Yeah, it was hard to tell you apart, except he's, far more handsome.
Yes, I agree with that. He's quite striking.
But you were born first, right? So
I was born first, yeah. And then he likes to say, well, I sat on your head for 9 months. I'm not sure how true that is, but it's still a good line. I will also say that, he and I are both upper right builders, but very different, very different. And I think that's, we have the data to support that. Anyway, I'm John Lane.
I'm Will Barfield.
And we are a work in progress. We'll get better at that, right? Bye.
Bye. Absolutely. Work in progress.
Work in Progress is a podcast presentation of Slipshod Productions. Available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Executive produced and starring John Lane and Will Barfield. Talent booking, production, and editing by John Lane. Thanks for watching. See you next week.